Every morning at exactly 8:15, the old man rolled up the rusted shutter of his tiny shoe repair shop on Maple Street. The bell above the door chimed softly, though few people noticed anymore. The sign on the window read, "Shoe repair, honest work," its paint cracked by decades of sun. To most passersby, he was just part of the scenery. He wore the same faded brown jacket year-round, his hands permanently stained with polish and glue. His back was slightly bent, his hair thin and silver. Kids walked past laughing, office workers hurried by staring at their phones, and tourists took photos of everything except him. They didn't know his name was Thomas Hawley, and they certainly didn't know what those hands had once done. Thomas worked quietly. He spoke little, but he listened more. When customers came in, he fixed their shoes with painstaking care, stitching solace as if each pair mattered deeply because to him they did. He charged less than anyone else in town, sometimes nothing at all if the customer looked like they needed mercy more than leather. "Why don't you raise your prices?" a young man once asked him. Thomas just smiled gently. These shoes already carry enough weight. No one ever understood what he meant. One rainy afternoon, a group of teenagers wandered in, laughing loudly. One of them dropped a torn sneaker on the counter and snickered, "Can you even fix these, Grandpa?" Thomas looked at the shoe, then at the boy. His gaze was calm, measuring. "Yes," he said softly. "And you should take better care of what carries you." The boys just laughed and left, mocking him as the bell rang again. Thomas didn't react. But that night, as he locked up, his eyes lingered on the empty street. His reflection in the glass looked older than he felt. Much older. Years earlier, Thomas Hawley had been something else entirely. He had moved through jungles without a sound, read the terrain like a language, and led men through places no maps could name. He was special forces, trained to survive, adapt, and protect at all costs. He had carried wounded comrades on his back, negotiated with warlords, and made decisions that saved entire villages, and some that haunted his sleep. He had been decorated, respected, even feared. But war always takes its payment. After his last deployment, Thomas came home quieter. The noise of the world felt too sharp. He didn't want medals, parades, or pity. He wanted peace. Something simple. Something honest, so he learned to fix shoes. One evening, just before closing, a commotion broke out across the street. A man was shouting, waving his arms wildly at a young woman. His anger was reckless, unpredictable. People slowed down but kept their distance. The woman backed away, terrified. Thomas watched. For a moment, he was just an old cobbler with tired knees. Then instinct took over. He crossed the street calmly, placing himself between them. "Sir," he said quietly. "This ends now." The man laughed. "And who are you?" Thomas didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten. He simply stood there balanced, steady, his eyes alert. Something in his posture changed the air. The man hesitated. When he lunged forward, it was over in seconds. Thomas moved with precise efficiency. No wasted motion, no anger. The man found himself pinned to the ground, immobilized, confused, and completely unharmed. Police arrived moments later. Witnesses stared in disbelief. One officer lingered behind after taking statements. He looked at Thomas closely, then at the way the man had been restrained. "Where did you learn to do that?" the officer asked quietly. Thomas met his eyes. "A long time ago." The officer nodded. He didn't ask any more questions. Word spread. People started noticing the shoe shop again. Not because of what Thomas had done, but because of who he was becoming in their eyes. A quiet presence. A man who listened. Someone who treated everyone with respect. Veterans started stopping by. Some recognized the look in his eyes immediately. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. "Good to see you, brother," one said, leaving a pair of worn-out boots behind. Thomas smiled. "Good to have you home." One day, a young boy came in with shoes held together by tape. "My mom can't afford new ones," he said softly. Thomas repaired them carefully, reinforcing every weak seam. When the boy reached for his wallet, Thomas shook his head. "Payment's already made," he said. "How?" the boy asked. Thomas tapped the boy's chest gently. "By walking forward." At closing time, Thomas swept the floor and turned off the lights. His hands ached. His body reminded him of every year he had lived. But his heart was steady. He no longer carried a weapon. He no longer followed orders shouted through radios. But he still served quietly daily without recognition. And that was enough, because strength isn't always loud. Heroes don't always wear uniforms. And sometimes the old man fixing shoes has already saved the world more than once. Thanks for watching.